The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's September the 9th, 2024. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined this morning by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, and Stephen Wagner, as we discuss the news of the day, presented today by Caneswear, your ultimate authority for all your Miami Hurricanes merchandise needs. The Canes are off to a 2-0 start. No better time to go to Caneswear than right now, either in person or at Caneswear.com, and load yourself up with some Hurricane stuff, because the start to the season is certainly worthy of that. They followed up the Florida Gator victory with I'll call it a workmanlike victory over Florida A&M. I don't think any of us would have liked to see Cam Ward still out there on the field late in the third quarter. Understand, obviously he's trying to win the Heisman. Miami's trying to make sure it's well positioned for votes as needed to get into the college football playoff. It's a little bit of a different agenda, when you factor in having a quarterback who's capable of winning the Heisman, something we haven't had here in a while, and a football team that is capable of making the college football playoff. If you're Mario Cristobal, you have to worry about things like style points, matching point spreads, putting up stats, making sure that when the majority of the nation looks at the score of the Florida A&M game, they see 56-9, not 40-9, or something that's not quite as impressive. Matt Shodell, you were obviously there. Took it all in. Your thoughts? It's hard to evaluate that game coming off of the Florida game, but I thought the Hurricanes were pretty, like I said, workmanlike in the effort.
Yeah, as exciting as the Florida game was, this was the antithesis of that. There was literally no fans left in the stadium almost the entire fourth quarter. I don't know. I wish they didn't schedule games like this, quite honestly. I guess they have to for some reason. But it's a disservice to Miami fans, a disservice to Miami players, a disservice to us reporters. It was a waste of my time, quite honestly. You knew what was going to happen before you got there. Played out just like you thought it would. The only thing I maybe learned from the game is that I think Zaquan Patterson, I think this defense might be best off with Zaquan Patterson and maybe Jaden Harris at safety and putting Mish Powell at nickel, because Jadeus Richard did not look very good covering not good receivers. And then Damari Hill's banged up. You need cornerback depth. And I thought Zaquan Patterson, even for not knowing maybe everything he's supposed to as a true freshman, looked like the biggest, fastest, most explosive safety I've seen at Miami in a while. He's the most, I'll go out on a limb and say right now, he's the most physically talented safety on the roster. So why not get him in games if he knows a little bit of what he's doing? That was about the only thing.
Because a little bit gets you beat in real games.
I know, but I'm a big fan of putting the best players on the field and not just the older guys who seem to know a little bit more of what they're doing. That's worth something. But when Zaquan is clearly
ready for that,
Jaden Harris, who is one of the fastest straight ahead 40 guys, when he looks slow and small compared to Zaquan Patterson, something doesn't add up, and it makes you just wonder, like, hey, how come I Miami safety? The one play Zaquan did where he undercuts the defender and comes up and just levels the running back, or whoever was the guy in the backfield who had gotten the ball. I mean, I haven't seen a safety make a play like that from that part of the field to where the ball wound up in years. And that includes Cam Kinchins, who wasn't the fastest safety, and James Williams, who just never seemed to really have his head on straight. I mean, it was really impressive, just that one play, and then just watching him run around a little bit more from the bird's eye view of the press box. But, this is a team that has all the potential in the world. The question is, will it live up to it? Because, you mentioned style points. And the only thing I'll point out with the new playoff system is style points really aren't, they're still needed, don't get me wrong, but they're not as necessary, because bottom line is, if Miami loses one regular season game, say to a Louisville or whatever, and then plays, let's say, Clemson in the ACC title game with Miami would have only one loss, and then loses that title game, no matter how many style points you have, you're not going to be in the playoffs at that point, most likely, because you already got 5 conference champions that have to be in the playoffs, right? You're going to have 2 losses. It's going to be very muddy at that point. You're going to have lost your final game. It's going to push you down in the rankings, no matter whether you beat every other team by 50 points or not. Now, Miami could lose 2 games, 3 games, 4 games in the regular season. Well, not 4, but they could lose 2 games in the regular season, make the ACC championship as a 2-loss team, win the ACC championship, and be in the playoffs. So it's how you get to the 2 losses that's really important with this playoff system, because the top 4 seeds with byes, no matter what, are conference champions. No matter what. If you're the highest ranked out of the 5 major conferences, if you're one of those 4 highest ranked conference champions, you have the bye, no matter whether you're ranked 1st, 2nd, or 12th. You have a bye in the first round of the playoffs, and you're in the playoffs. So style points be damned. As long as Miami's in the ACC title game and wins the ACC title game, it doesn't matter how many style points you have or don't have, you have a bye. That's just the system. So you can say style points, whatever. I mean, people in the press box were joking, why is Cam Ward? And somebody said, because he doesn't have 300 passing yards yet. Lo and behold, he gets his 300 passing yards on the drive, and he's never seen or heard from again in the game. I mean, it's a little ridiculous, but I guess that's the world we live in, especially, if Cam Ward, I'm sure part of the agreement for Cam Ward when he came to Miami was, look at this schedule. Don't be pulling me in the second quarter of games we know we're going to win. I need to put NFL tape out there. I'm sure that was part of the agreement, that they know he needs to. This is his 1-year showcase for the NFL. It's not, and part of it is, hey, let's get Miami a national championship, okay? But his goal for coming to Miami, to be clear, is to be a first-round NFL pick. That is why he came back to college. He wasn't saying, hey, I'm coming to Miami now because I just want a championship. He came to Miami to be an NFL first-round draft pick. And along that way, he can easily help Miami to a national title. But his number 1 priority, there's no doubt about it, is to secure his own future. It's why he came back, and it's why he came to Miami. And that's okay. That's the modern world of college football. You need to be a little selfish in the modern world. Don't tell anyone. Don't tell Mario, okay, Cam? I know the truth, Cam. It's okay. You don't have to tell Mario. That's the truth. And that's the way it is for a lot of players in today's game. And it's sad. But you know what? Cam Ward is an amazing, amazing player. And I was mentioning it to Gary the other day because I don't talk to Steven. I mentioned it to Gary the other day. Talking to Steven's just a waste of time. I just stare at his mustache and see his mouth move, and I never comprehend what he's saying. So I said to Gary, I said, can you imagine this exact same team without Cam Ward? Because, we've seen Reese in practice. We saw Reese in the game. Reese is okay, but I'm not sure Emory wouldn't start ahead of him, quite honestly. And when you took Reese at the point they took Reese, it was because, hey, we need a starting quarterback, because they just weren't sure that Emory was going to be ready. And it seems pretty clear to me that, Reese and Emory are like A and A. Like, they're both the same. There's not a big difference there right now. So if Miami did not have Cam Ward, we're not having this conversation. Miami is not scoring all the points it did in game 1 against Florida. That's the difference a top shelf quarterback makes. It's why Cam Ward now is number 2 in the Heisman polling, or not polling, but the Heisman odds on whatever that site is, DraftKings, I guess, is because he's a difference maker. And it's amazing how one guy at quarterback at that one position can make things so much better. I mean, Cam Ward is that guy. Cam Ward is the guy Miami has not had in 22 years. And if Cam Ward was the quarterback in 2017, if Cam Ward was the quarterback in any other year, I think Miami wins 10 games in any of the last 22 years that you put Cam Ward at quarterback. That's how good he is, and that's the kind of difference he makes in this team. So now you just have to hope they don't have a hiccup against a really, I was looking at Louisville again, their first couple of games, like against a really good Louisville team. You have to hope they don't have a hiccup going to Cal, which now looks like a real team after they beat Auburn, right, at Auburn. So there's some tricky games on the schedule. Cal has a good offense. Louisville has a good defense and a decent offense. Like, there are some teams on this schedule where you can still say, yeah, I'm not sure we know about Miami as a team. What we do know is Cam Ward is that guy. And so Miami will be in those games. The question is, do they pull it out? Is Miami's defense, is the secondary good enough to stop a dual threat quarterback when the front seven's pushing up and you're one-on-one on an island down the field? Personnel groupings, how you attack as coaches. Like someone said to me the other day, Mario Cristobal is going to find a way to lose a game. The players won't. Mario Cristobal will. That's what someone said to me, a Miami fan. And like, that has not disappeared. That has not disappeared. There's this stigma attached to Mario that he recruits the best players and now he can pay the best players, but somehow he personally loses games, which I find unfathomable. I understand he's made some bad decisions in the past, okay? But come on. So things are looking great with the caveat that Matt Shodell always has, which is we still have to wait. I think we'll know by the end of October. We're certainly going to know. With 5 games left, you're going to know what team this is. If it's a championship level team, a definite playoff level team, or if it's like a little bit of a mirage along the lines of Texas A&M last year, but a better mirage than that one. This could be a 2-loss team, could be a 3-loss team, could be a 0-loss team. They may not be an underdog in a single game the rest of the year. So, I'm swaying on the side of the good right now versus the bad. I'm thinking more 1-loss than 3-loss. 2-loss is, I think, less likely now than I did before. I think 1 loss is more likely probably than 2 losses. But again, it's so hard to tell because I think Florida's a bad team, a bad program, and they don't play anyone else. People can say, USF was close with Alabama into the fourth quarter. Alabama had 198 yards in 12 minutes after they got themselves like sort of going. I don't know what the term is, but those last 12 minutes of that game, Alabama made USF look like a high school team, and USF's quarterback can't throw the ball. So good luck to them against Miami. I mean, I'm not worried about USF. I know Gary's going to pound this fist. USF's a real team. It's going to be a difficult team to beat. Give me a break. Miami is better at every position, at every player. There's not a player on USF's roster would have a scholarship spot at Miami. Give me a break. That's an easy win. The real tests are going to be somewhat Virginia Tech, even though they obviously had an upset loss already. And then really that Cal, Louisville, and I'm still putting Florida State in there. I'm not giving up on Florida State being decent because they have a good enough defense and their offense has to get fixed. But that 3-game stretch is a season. And after that, you're going to know. If you win all 3 of those, I think you're going undefeated. You win 2 out of 3, 1 loss is most likely, maybe 2. And if you lose 2 out of those 3, then you're saying this is the same old crap. And people are going to want to fire all the coaches again. And, it's a disaster all over again. Those 3 games are the ones that I'm waiting for. And I'm sick and tired of having to go to these stupid games against Ball State and FAMU and even USF. Like, they don't excite me. I'm sorry. And can I get off the show now? Like, that's all I have to say for the whole show. I don't need to say anything else. Steven, you do your thing. Gary, say thanks for watching, everybody, and let's get the hell out of here. I'm ready to go work out.
I don't know about your fan club. That was the longest 10 minutes of Steven in my lives. Okay.
Yeah, and that's why I want to get it all done. So I don't have to say any more. I do not want to say any more. I'm done.
All out there.
I'm done.
Let me try to unwrap a little bit about,
No, just go to Steven and be done with it. We don't need more of this.
South Florida, I obviously agree, but 14-13 late in the third quarter at Alabama is still 14-13 late in the third quarter at Alabama. They are a competent football team. Hopefully Miami goes to Tampa, takes care of business, and wins as impressively as they did in Gainesville. But South Florida is a competent football team. They played a horrible fourth quarter against the Alabama team that obviously got its own act together. Cam Ward didn't come to Miami to run up stats. He came to Miami to make sure that the fans collect on their bets. Okay, so he made sure that they covered the 45-point spread yesterday so that everybody that wagers, especially now with sports betting in Florida, would go home happy, and it was mission accomplished. But in all seriousness, it's like I get it. I get the whole thing. But yesterday, or Saturday rather, was the game where they figured to be able to play a lot of the young guys significant reps. And, it worked in some cases. In some cases, it really did not. Like, I would have liked to see Nikar get more than 12 reps yesterday. I would have liked to see Jordan Lyle get more than 16. I would have really liked to see Chris Johnson get more than 3. We went into the season thinking Chris Johnson was going to be a part of the offense. Hasn't really played out that way. He got 3 reps in the FAMU game. Jay Allen, who I think's been doing a great job, quite frankly, he got 9 reps. So because the score was tighter than what Miami would have liked coming out of halftime, they had to play the starters more reps, and it impacted the number of reps that some of the younger guys got. Like a Cam Pruitt got 8, even though he graded pretty well. Chase Smith 9, graded pretty well. You mentioned Zaquan Patterson. I happen to agree with you. I think he's going to be a very, very good player. I think that it was asking a lot to expect him to be that guy that you could put out there at the beginning of the season, which is why you see the safety and defensive back set up the way it is. I also agree with you the way that Jadaeus Richard did not look very good out there on Saturday, and he graded horrendously. And if he doesn't pick it up, I agree with you. You might see Zaquan Patterson sooner than later, with Mish Powell able to drop down and be the nickel guy. So they'll have some flexibility there as the season goes forward. All in all, a successful day at Hard Rock Saturday, but I personally would have liked to see some of these younger guys that I mentioned, and there's more, get some more reps. But a big part of the day was recruiting, and enormous number of recruits out there. None more significant than 5-star DJ Pickett. You know the story by now. He's an LSU commit. Nobody has been worked harder by the Hurricanes than DJ Pickett. That effort continues. You watch the body language, the comfortability, and everything else when DJ Pickett is around Miami, and you know it's genuine, you know it's real, you know it's there. You know that Miami is a legit contender to sway him away from LSU. I don't understand why he committed. He did not have to commit. Steven, you spoke to him after the game on Saturday. You've been all over this recruitment for many months now. Give us your synopsis of where Miami stood with DJ Pickett exiting his impromptu visit for the Florida A&M game.
Yeah, so someone asked me on the message board the other day if I felt like this recruitment was kind of like the Jeremiah Smith recruitment last year, and my strict answer was no, definitely not, because Miami was trying to convince Jeremiah Smith that he should be a Hurricane, and that there wasn't and that Miami was much closer, or that Miami wasn't closer with Jeremiah Smith in terms of trying to flip him from Ohio State. Miami has a much better relationship with DJ Pickett. His interest in Miami is substantially higher. His decision to commit to LSU earlier this summer was not easy. And obviously the fact that his recruitment is still going on, that he's still taking these visits, tells you that it's not over, and it's not going to be over for a while. We're expecting him to get back down for the Florida State game. Initially at the start of the week, we didn't expect him to get down for this game. It just kind of happened. And then all of a sudden, DJ ends up coming down with his younger cousin Cannon, who also happens to be Booker's little brother. So there's definitely a family angle with Miami that they're working. There are a lot more Miami ties that they're working. He comes from a family of Miami legacies. Booker, his cousin, who last year I think ended up being a top 100 recruit in the class. He is very, very close with Booker, and they've talked about the idea of playing together at Miami before. That holds real weight with him. And then his other cousin, Cannon, the 2026 4-star offensive lineman, he was RPM'd to Miami earlier in the week. And he's a very, very well-documented Canes superfan. And, there's a lot of confidence on the Miami side that they are going to be able to get Cannon. So now all of a sudden we're talking about, potentially his two cousins who, he's very close with going to play at Miami too. And, we've asked before, does that hold some weight? He said, yeah, that definitely does. Although he is still locked in with LSU. And he said that, a big reason why he felt like he wanted to go ahead and commit whenever he did was because he felt like the coaching staffs at Miami and LSU and Oregon, his three finalists, no matter what happened, he didn't think that they were going to go anywhere this year, barring something absolutely bizarre happening. He felt like win or lose, those three staffs all had some pretty solid stability and would definitely still be there by the time that he arrives on campus next year. But Miami is making some very, very real progress here. And I think the fact that he just kind of suddenly decided, heck yeah, screw it. Let's get down to Miami. Let's go have a game day visit. I think that really moves the needle significantly, kind of back toward Miami's favor a little bit, because it would be one thing if we weren't expecting him to come down to campus again at all this fall, but we're still expecting him to come down for the LSU game, or I'm sorry, for the FSU game. That tells me that there is real interest and that there is a very, very real possibility that he could end up a Hurricane. And I think that those chances would only multiply if Miami goes ahead and makes the CFP this year.
DJ Pickett, an elite defensive back, certainly worth all of this fuss. He was one of many recruits out at Hard Rock this weekend. If you want to get caught up on what they were saying, we spoke to a lot of them after the game, and you could check that stuff out on the website, and we'll have a lot more stories coming your way on that front. Just to put a little bit of a ribbon on the team performance. We sent Matt into the lab on Sunday, honestly, so we wouldn't have to deal with him very much, and asked him to take a look at the Miami offense in the first two games and come back with a real detailed analysis of what we have learned about this offense through these two games and where they go from here. Matt, I want to give you the floor back. Your thoughts without giving the entire story away on what you found when you took that deep dive into the offense.
Well, that's the whole point of my 8-minute soliloquy. Was I already touched on that, but the bottom line is you don't know yet, right? I mean, Florida could be terrible. They didn't play a team in FAMU. You know what you have in Cam Ward. He's shown it before how great he is. You can see how great he is just watching these two games. It doesn't matter who the opponent is. A quarterback that does the things he does athletically, precision passes for the most part, good decisions, things like that. The only way a defense is gonna really disrupt him is to get to him before he can really do anything, and surround him. They can't just be, they have to stay in their gaps, the defensive lineman, or he will find a way to rush out of it as well or buy the extra time. It's really difficult to stop or even slow down a guy like Cam Ward, which is why, again, since Gary doesn't pay attention when I talk anyway, I mentioned October is going to be really when we'll know for sure if this overall team is what we think it can be. Also, Gary, will refresh your memory. I said if Cam Ward was the quarterback in the last 22 years, any of those seasons, I think they probably would have won 10 games, even some of those really bad years. Like, that's the kind of difference maker Cam Ward is. With that said, Louisville, like I said before, Cal, like I said before, those are teams that can cause problems. Louisville, great defense, good enough offense. Cal is, good enough on both sides that they can cause some problems. One of the top rushers in the country when he's healthy. I know he's had a little bit of an ankle injury. And they just beat Auburn. So, to me, those are the two games you circle for now. I don't think USF's going to be good, like I said, Gary. I don't think Virginia Tech's great, but they're good enough with a dual threat quarterback, like I already said, Gary. Like, literally, I went through all this before, and I said, this is why I don't want to have to talk again. And you said you were bored to death. But I said, don't ask me anything else. I'm done. I just wanted to get it done in one fell swoop, and then let's get the hell out of here. Let's start our day. Enough.
All right. Well, that story is on the website if you dare read it. And one thing that is pointed out is that Cam Ward started the year outside the top 10 in the Heisman race, and now he's everyone's consensus, top 2, top 3. Quinn Ewers, is it Ewers or Ewers? I don't know. But from Texas, has started out phenomenally this season as well. He's a really, really, really good player. Georgia's Carson Beck, Ole Miss's Jackson Dart, they're in the mix as well. Cam Ward right there, which is why you were yelling and screaming, whether you were at Hard Rock on Saturday or watching on TV, get him out of the game in the third quarter, but that's why he was still in there. They are letting him do his thing and build his resume, like we said. And you know what? For what he's done for the program, it's the least they can do. But they are taking some chances. There's no doubt about it that they do not have to take. All right, we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the stories on the website today. But I did want to take a moment here and talk a little bit more about Caneswear. Just a phenomenal place for you to go to load up on your gear for the season. And there have been a lot of Cane stores around through the years and still are some. Nobody does it better in today's world than Caneswear. They got this phenomenal store at 2655 South University Drive in Davie, 15 minutes from Hard Rock. In fact, let me show it to you right now, real quick, and then tell I'll tell you a little bit more.
Welcome to CaneSport. New store, new items, same great experience. Family owned and operated since 2010, CaneSport has the latest merchandise from the Miami Hurricanes, Miami Dolphins, Florida Panthers, Inter Miami CF, and more. Come visit us at our store in Davie on University Drive, just south of 595, or online at caneswear.com. CaneSport, the spot Miami fans shop.
This has nothing to do with CaneSport, but the Dolphin stuff made me think about this. So, I'm driving the Hard Rock for the Dolphin game yesterday. I see this commotion with all these police. I'm like, what the heck's going on? I was like, I couldn't believe that was Tyreek Hill that they had on the ground in handcuffs. Just the most ridiculous thing that you'll ever hear about in your life. So I hope that works out. I hope they straighten out what that problem was, and we don't see any similar type of incidents on the way to Miami Hurricane games. But anyway, so CaneSport, they've got everything you could possibly want. T-shirts, jerseys, polos, hoodies, hats, flags, decals, magnets. If you're shopping for your wife or significant other, your parents, your kids, your pets, CaneSport has something for everybody, and they have all sizes as well. So no better time than right now. Get on over to CaneSport. If you can't make it to the store, shop them at caneswear.com. Obviously, 24 hours a day. They're more than a store. They are an experience, and they're at 2655 South University Drive in Davie, or, of course, at caneswear.com. Visit CaneSport right now. Load yourself up for the football season. All right, let's continue here and talk about some of the stories around the website today. A lot of them are recruiting oriented. Stephen, we have a story on 4-star inside interior lineman Max Buchanan. He talks about his commitment, why he's locked in with the Hurricanes. You guys can check that out. A guy that Miami is really, really excited about. And, we were talking about Saquon Patterson. We could visualize a Saquon Patterson, Hilton Stubbs safety tandem for 2-3 years coming up down the road. This Hilton Stubbs kid can flat play. He is committed to the Hurricanes. He was at the Florida A&M game. We have an update on him and his thoughts on what he's seeing from the Hurricanes. We also have a story with 2026 interior offensive lineman Ryan Moret from Miami Southridge High School. He also was at the FAMU game, and we spoke to him, and we bring you that update today. So many kids, can't mention them all. But, Stephen, sum up for us just the general mood amongst the recruits based on the Miami performance that they got to see live on Saturday.
I mean, man, it's a lot easier to recruit whenever you're winning, whenever you have a winning product and you're not having to sell, oh, look, this is what we're going to build toward. This is what we're trying to work on. Nick Saban said early in his tenure at Alabama, he said one of the worst things that he hated doing was having to go after a humiliating loss, having to go up to the recruits and explain to the recruits why it's going to be different whenever you're here. It's a heck of a lot easier whenever you're able to walk up to recruits and say, hey, it's actually not going to be that much different at all because we're already in a position where we can compete for championships. Our roster is already in really good shape. And we think that, the culture that we want is finally established here. Now, granted, like Matt said, Florida could end up being completely horrible. For all we know, Billy Napier could be fired within the next 2 to 3 weeks. If, let's say they drop back-to-back home games against Texas A&M and UCF. That program could, that program's obviously not in great shape. FAMU is, obviously not even a great FCS program. So it's really hard to judge just how good Miami is this early into the season. And I think that we probably will have a much better idea of how good they really are, sometime around October, whenever, they get into ACC play and they actually start getting tested. But right now, Miami's able to sell momentum to these recruits because they're able to say, hey, we're 2-0, we're in the top 10. That stuff matters. Like it really does. What 16, 17, 18-year-old kid is going to turn down a phone call from a coach at a top 10 program? And right now, that's what Miami's able to market themselves as. They're able to market themselves as a top 10 program. I mean, if Manny Diaz was hunting more whales whenever he was here at Miami, and they had De'Aaron King that one year, and we saw them, absolutely obliterate Florida State at home, and they shot up, I think, to what? I think like number 7 in the poll, I think was the highest that they got that year. I mean, shoot, I bet Manny probably would have had some more recruiting success too. So that's something that Miami's absolutely going to keep selling. Miami's going to keep taking advantage of that because, the more Notre Dames of the world that lose to Northern Illinois, the more Oregons that struggle against Idaho and Boise State, and the more FAMUs and Ball States that Miami's able to beat, the higher that they're going to keep climbing in the ranking, and the higher that and the better seed that they're going to be able to sell to a bunch of these recruits. Put it simply, as long as Miami keeps winning, recruiting is going to get a lot easier, especially whenever this team and this staff is betting on itself to win the way that they are this year.
All right, so they get to do it all over again this week, and we'll be building towards next Saturday. Obviously, the entire week. You got Ball State coming to town. There'll be a bunch of recruits out there. It's going to be rinse and repeat, instant replay of what we saw Saturday at Hard Rock Stadium as the Hurricanes keep churning along, building towards some more meaningful games down the road. We'll have a lot coming your way today. We'll be talking to Mario Cristobal a couple times. We'll have both coordinators that we'll be speaking to today. So stay tuned to the website all day long for the latest and greatest of your Hurricane news. Program notes, CaneSport Live, Tuesday night at 8. The Lamar Thomas Show, Wednesday night at 8. Both shows I thought were really, really good last week. If you didn't get a chance to watch them, you can go to the CaneSport YouTube channel and find them there and take a peek. And we will continue to do everything that we can do to enhance your fan experience as we chug along here in 2024. If you're on YouTube right now, hit your subscribe and like buttons. That does help us with the algorithms and continuing to grow our YouTube channel. And if you're not yet a subscriber to CaneSport.com, more than anything, please, please, please head on over to CaneSport.com, become a subscriber, join our community of fans. Your subscriptions allow us to do what we do every single day. They allow me to put up with Matt Shodell. So for Matt Shodell and Stephen Wagner, I'm Gary Ferman. Thanks once again for joining us, everybody. Have a great day. We'll see you next time.